The humanitarian organization The White Helmets has a warning for the people of Ukraine: use caution when dealing with the United Nations. The group has been working to help civilians in the Syrian civil war and said they are seeing the same patterns in Ukraine that they've seen in Syria when dealing with the Russian military. Indeed, we have seen many similarities between the conflict in Syria and the conflict in Ukraine, said White Helmets director Rod Saleh. The same scenes of massive destruction caused by the Russians that we've seen in cities like Damascus, rural Damascus, Aleppo and Idlib are being repeated in Kyiv, are being repeated in Kharkiv and other Ukrainian cities. And as we all know, the Russian military has no respect for the basic principles of avoiding civilian targets or infrastructure or sparing unnecessary casualties. The Russians don't abide by these principles. Saleh said his group notified the UN through their humanitarian notification system of 2 medical sites only to have them targeted days later. Their system notifies all parties where aid centers are so both sides can avoid harming civilians. The humanitarian notification system in Syria and elsewhere aims to facilitate the safe delivery of humanitarian assistance. It does so by informing parties to the conflict of the locations of humanitarian facilities, warehouses and offices for example, and movements, for example a convoy with humanitarian supplies, so that the parties can factor them into their military operations in order to avoid harm to them, said a UN spokesperson. The international group also said humanitarian organizations like the White Helmets choose to give that information and know it is shared with all sides involved in the conflict. It is important to stress that whether or not a humanitarian organization or a party to the conflict participates in the humanitarian notification system, all parties to the conflict have obligations under international humanitarian law not to direct attacks against civilians or civilian objects, including humanitarian personnel or assets, and to take constant care to spare them throughout their military operations, said the spokesperson. The concerns from the humanitarian organization come as the violence in Eastern Europe escalated over the weekend. The civilian death toll is also rising, with Ukraine's Ministry of Foreign Affairs confirming the death of 90 children since February. 24. The White Helmets has plans to get involved directly in Ukraine with training videos and other resources that are still in the works. In the meantime, the group hopes the UN steps up to call out perpetrators in the violence. We believe that the UN has a central role to play. We believe that its institutions are vital for the survival of civilians, especially in war-torn countries, said Saleh. However, we believe that this role could be played better, could be improved, and that the UN should have the courage to speak up and to abandon that gray rhetoric that doesn't acknowledge the victims and doesn't name the perpetrator.